And it looks like we're live. Mute that. And as per usual, everything's coming up because I'm not actually doing anything. Haven't done anything for a while, so yeah. Welcome to Matt Gaming and Brick After Hours, illuminated by nothing but candles, of course. Nice smell of vanilla wafting up my nose, actually. So, but anyway, I thought you might appreciate the sort of like dark ethos, and certainly nothing dark going on. So, just thought I'd scare you. I'll just turn the lights on and move the candle out of the way. So yeah, you know, just a little bit of a different intro. Freight car time. This is a video that I've been waiting to do for a while because there's been quite a lot of progress. Some of which I've actually got with me, some of which is still not publishable at the current moment in time. And Glenn Holland has certainly seen one of what's going to be shown off, with a few changes to what he's last seen of it. So, without further ado, the gondola kit is officially released. I've actually already placed my order in, and that was for the kit itself, 2 lots of decals for the gondola, 2 lots of decals for one of their other kits, and a set of decals for the boxcar. I'm just actually pulling it up. So yeah, so that little lot came to a grand total of $156 including shipping, so there's quite a lot there. That also includes a t-shirt, I should add, in navy blue in extra large size, so I can be starting to wear the BMR gear now to show that off, so that'll look quite nice. So for freight cars, there's not a lot that's changed to existing models that have been shown off before. So the stuff that you've seen previously, such as the Brick Central boxcar, the Lehigh Valley caboose, and pretty much every other model you've seen before, there's not a great deal of updates to those. But what there are a lot of is brand new models, which nobody's really seen before, and they're going to be quite interesting. So I'm going to deal with flat cars first. Glenn himself is actually watching, so to deal with flat cars, obviously some of you have already seen the Erie flat car I've already done. That's actually got the tractor load. It's actually up there, currently hiding behind my sort of like event brick and brick badge, just behind there. You can actually just about see the coupler just there. But I've done a second one in black. There's going to be 3 of these in black in total, and this one is actually complete structurally. There's some plates missing from the bogies. It's missing the wheels and decals, obviously, because it's plain. But outside of that, and just fitting the brake wheel, which I got the parts in the drawers anyway. This is another completed model, so you know, getting there quite well. And this one is something which I started off about 2 months ago, getting some of the parts for, and it's been quite a lot of the parts that have been ordered of late have actually gone into this one, and it's another flat car in reddish brown, and it's even got a reddish brown brake stand and brake wheel as well, so it's always good for that. This car has a lot less progress than the other one. It's missing the, I'm not going to show it off because obviously it's showing off build techniques, but it is missing off a good portion of the underframe. It has got the main central spine, but it doesn't have any of the brake detail. The sides are actually the wrong colour. I only had so 6 of the long plates, I'll say, that are used in the sides are in pink, red, yellow, any colour other than reddish brown, so they need to be swapped out as well. So on the whole, it's externally, provided you don't turn it over, looks pretty much done. There's just these two 1x8 tiles to change as well. These are in a dark red at the moment, but they need to be changed out. And then this one is pretty much complete as far as visually does, and again, it's missing the wheels and bogie detail, but that's the sort of stuff that I sort of leave off to the last stage. Now this one has been on the slow cooker for a while, and this one is actually complete now, with the exception of flex tube and a few other bits and pieces, and I'm really pleased to say that it's that sort of stage. It's actually a reddish brown hopper. This is pretty much complete in terms of the body. It's still got to have the end support stanchions and the hopper handrail that goes across here for both sides. The brake stand at this end is missing, and it's obviously missing the wheels and bogie detailing, but everything up to the coal load is done. And there's a piece there that's in tan that should be in reddish brown that we should need swapping out. And then it's just decaling. And then this car's complete as well. And this is the first of two reddish brown hoppers I'm going to do. This one is actually going to be in Lehigh Valley livery, I think. Or at least one of them is. The second one, and it's actually kind of going back to my sort of like modelling roots, if you like, is that in modelling American stuff, is that when I started modelling American stuff, I actually started off my entire escapade into HO scale US railroading with a Bachmann model, and it's one that I don't really think they do much of anymore, and it was the Fairbanks Morse H1644, and it was in New Haven livery, and that was actually bought from Model Zone back when they were in Birmingham, in what is now Computer Exchange. So that was going back quite many years ago now, and that was actually in McGuinness livery, because obviously the New Haven sort of has sort of two sort of livery periods, if you like. You have like the hunter green with the very stylised sort of New York, New Haven and Hartford Railroad calligraphy sort of style logo, where the N is duplicated between the New Haven and New York, and the H is shared between Hartford and Haven. Obviously I've gotten those the wrong one way round compared to how they are in the logo. And then you've obviously got the McGuinness sort of black with the red and white lettering, which denotes sort of the later era, the dieselisation and that sort of stuff, where it's more of a getting down to bare economics and trying to reduce overheads as much as possible, even reducing like track maintenance and coach cleaning and stuff like that to the bare minimum, which isn't really the golden age of New Haven for anyone who's actually read into it. So that's how I started off, and the New Haven is kind of making a return in hopper form, at least in the steam era stuff. So that's why I want to do stuff in New Haven. The New Haven Railroad is probably the only east side or east coast side of America that's been a pretty major railroad that's actually escaped BMR's decal list, surprisingly. So I'm actually going to slowly fix that. So obviously I need to contact my very good friend Andy over at well, let's say Train Bricks Zone, but it's not Train Bricks, it's this one here. Oh, OK Brickworks, that's it. Remember the name, can't remember the company. OK Brickworks, because they've done the decals for quite a lot of stuff, and in actual fact this envelope I have here actually has the decals for the Hooker chemical tank car, which I'll come on to shortly. But again, Andy's done quite bang up job on the details, currently including for other stuff, so it's natural that I'll go to Andy because he does the BMR one, so he can copy and paste most of the technical details and just change like the branding for it. So so New Haven is making a return, and making some other progress are the Pell Power Company hoppers. I've got one complete already. It's actually up on the shelf up there, but I'd said I'd build 3, so we actually have hopper number 2 here, and this is body complete, transfers applied, like for the side ones at least. The end ones aren't on, but it's very much like the reddish brown one. It's missing the end stanchions, the end handrail, the chute doors on the underside. They're in the wrong colour. Two are in red, 2 are in green, so I need to change those out. It's missing the bogey wheels, it's missing bogey details, it's missing steps. There's quite a lot missing from this one, but nevertheless it is a bit more progress towards completing one. The third Pell Power Company hopper is actually complete and is actually just out of view. I've actually had to stop work on that one because I've actually run out of red tiles, which is a bit unfortunate, but such as it is. And again, that one is one where I've got to a certain point and can't continue because I've run out of pieces. In this case, it's tiles. But that one I'm going to sort of leave on simmer for a while because it's sort of to do with the short and long term goals. But this one, the Power Company one, I can at least do the coal load in it this year. I've got the pieces partly in the drawers behind the monitor and partly in all the many sort of parts bins here as well, in the storage tray, so I can do the coal load for it and I can probably do the coal load for the other one as well. But it's just that sort of stuff is sort of not a priority at the moment because there's other stuff to do. And I'll go and pick this one up. Nobody's actually seen this in this form yet, but this is actually the Hooker chemical tank car, and this is now externally complete, with the exception of 2 main provisos, and that is, or they are, I should say, the top sort of like deck, if you like, because this is still missing the handrails. The Hooker chemical tank car, I'm kind of doing a special effort with it. It's going to have special handrails. I kind of know how to do them. I just need time to do them. And it's also going to have special ladders as well. So one will be from the handrail down to the main running board, and then we'll have another one that's actually going up to the actual deck at the top. The other thing is the end here. The rest of the car is actually in orange. The domes are actually in bright light orange, I think it is. So I actually have orange paint. This is orange X6 Tamiya colour acrylic paint. So it's not the first time I've touched Tamiya colours, because I've touched them before, but certainly the first time touching them in regards to painting Lego. So that'll be the first for that. So the ends need painting to match the same colour. The actual tank car itself sort of lines up. One of the other things as well, if you're looking for a bit more accuracy, the BMR sort of freight sort of tank car instructions have the handrail points 1 stud inwards, so it's in this central 6 stud wide band. If you move them 1 stud out of that, so it's sort of there's a gap of 6 studs between them instead of 4. That actually sort of matches the prototype a bit better for accuracy. So I think it's to do with the way it's been adapted in terms of the scale. This sort of scale sort of matches the certain photos of the car better. I'm thinking, to be honest, you're looking at half stud offsets instead of so it's like 5 studs between the 2 points instead of 4. But 6, in my opinion, actually works better. So that needs to be changed as well. But this is the 4th tank car I've built now. So we've had, trying to remember now, there's been Octane 20s, Octane 40s, Union Starch, and I have shown it off before, but I'll show it off again. This is just missing steps, and I think this one's actually done as well, except for bogies and the underframe. But again, this has all been decaled up from OK Brickworks details, and Andy actually worked off real life examples for this as well. So I sent him a load of photos and sort of said, here's what I'm trying to do, and he sort of went, okay, that'll look interesting, and here it is. The only issue with this livery is it doesn't quite transfer to BMR tank cars well, because of the really small gap between the sort of platform here and the handrail. So the ampersand, which is actually between the starch and refining, kind of gets lost underneath there, especially with the shadow, which is a bit unfortunate. Might be able to be fixed using net brackets and moving the platform up a bit, but it's something which I think needs to be carefully considered, because obviously you then start changing the look of the car and that sort of stuff. This car took quite a long time to do, because I actually cut a lot of the decals up a bit to get it on the sort of cheese slopes a bit better. So that's why it looks quite good, because I took my time with it. Unfortunately, I don't always take my time with certain transfers, and that kind of shows. But this is quite nice because it's sort of got the tank car on the number on the dome as well, so that's why that one looks quite nice. I don't think there's actually any other updates for ones I actually got behind me. So gondola time. I think the gondola one is the big important news, and I'm actually going to Facebook to draw up the list, because I do have a list of all the freight cars I'm actually going to do on my Facebook page, and it's one I keep fairly up to date with progress as well. So if you're ever wondering why I'm not necessarily doing a video, if you check the list, it's normally because I've been doing some work on those and doing some work on that. So the other one as well is the Brick Railroad boxcar as well. I'm actually doing one in the own brand. So there's ends here. So I've actually got the ends, or at least the start of the ends, and the start of the doors. So that's kind of that's very much on the slow burner, but I am starting to do one. So we got some of the bricks there, and then we got some of the smaller elements here, such as the droid arms for the steps, more of these closed handrails in tan. So I pretty much should have enough to do the car as far as I can estimate, and then so do these grille tiles as well for the roof walkway. So that's essentially just time to build it and seeing what's missing. So sort of announcements, if you like. There's 2 hoppers which I've kind of been working on in the background at least. They're not discussed. So I said 2 of these reddish brown hoppers. New Haven's obviously one. The other one is Lehigh Valley, which BMR actually do decals for, so they've actually been put on order along with the new gondola kit. The other one is the Lackawanna, or the DLW, so the Delaware, Lackawanna and Western. That's a black one, and I actually have that just off camera, just below there, because it literally is just the frame and the ends, so I can't show any more than that, otherwise it sort of ruins the mystery of the instructions about how it's done. But that is actually just off there, so I should have most of the parts to do that. I think the biggest issue with that is going to be 1x1 plates. I always, even if I order 200, they seem to disappear in instance. I think the other legger is actually eating the 1x1 black plates just to annoy me. So that's the changes for hoppers. So the black one is started, the other brown one, I've got some of the parts for it, but again, I haven't completed this one yet, so you can sort of see that progress is not going to be fast in that front. Flat cars, I've already covered that. The one thing I do want to point out is loads. The Erie flat car has got the tractor load, which is the D3 or D2, I think it is. I've kind of reversed engineered the D4 that's included into a 1920s version. So it does look a little different. Does exactly the same function, but the it's more sort of with the front end overhanging the tracks. I still need to do a bit of work on the main bodies to get that sort of track alignment done. But that sort of is something that I need to do. But as far as I'm concerned, it's not a priority at the moment. The cabooses, or caboose, it is cabooses, generally accepted, I should point out, not cabooses. On the caboose front, obviously the Lehigh Valley route of the Black Diamond one is complete. I have decided to do a custom variant of the caboose lettered for the New York Harbour Railroad. And here's another interesting tidbit that from my HO scale days, is that when I was doing HO scale, I sort of imagineered a railroad that sort of served the New York Harbour areas, I should say. That sort of was essentially to avoid conflict between all the harbours. Every railroad that did serve a harbour then had their certain amount of trackage and all the dock area taken off them and put into a holdings company called the New York Harbour Railroad, which they all got shares in. But it was independently managed and that sort of stuff. So they had shares in it, but shares weren't issued out to the general public, so they're only issued to the railroads. So only the railroads had control of it, and it only served the railroads. So everything was balanced. It was made to play fair, effectively. So the railroads couldn't charge any extras between the railroads and that sort of stuff. I even got to far as doing its own logo. Some of the backstory was a bit more fleshed out than that, but obviously that was a long time ago, and that was deleted years ago, and I've kind of gotten little bits and pieces back, and I've started doing a few other bits and pieces. So that is something I'd like to do, but it's not a priority because it's a Imagineered car, as Disney might call it. So I'm just leaving that on the slow burner. I have got certain parts for it, like blue window frames. And I got some of the plates needed for the frame, and I've got some other pieces as well. Were bought way long time ago. Certain plates, certain bricks, and a few other bits and pieces were bought, but it's been sort of like, maybe I don't want to, and I've sort of said, well, actually I kind of do, because then I can also modify the instructions slightly as well. So that's something I'll keep up my nose for now. And lastly, but by no means leastly, I want to actually talk about gondolas, because gondolas are obviously the newest kit. The video was actually uploaded 2 days ago, I think it was. But in terms of gondolas, they've actually sorted out the list. So there's actually going to be 4 in total. So out of the stock decals that are going to be released, if not currently released, I'm going to build one in Pennsylvania, reddish brown. Pennsylvania is the railroad that's already got itself a boxcar, a PS1, which is actually up there on the shelf somewhere, but it doesn't have anything else. And I thought, as the gondola originally started as a Pennsylvania model, I think I'll go for Pennsylvania for the gondola as well. So there's actually neatly balanced by another real railroad, but this time it's going to be in black, and it's actually the Reading. The Reading has actually escaped modelling currently for all the current decal release. I think the Reading has a different model as well. I think it might have been the boxcar, but I sort of think the Reading has kind of missed out on everything else, so it's going to get a gondola to act as its sort of little flag on the railroad list that I own. And custom ones, because I always like to do custom ones. I did mention the New Haven earlier. Well, the New Haven is not only getting a hopper, it's also getting a gondola in reddish brown as well. So the New Haven goes from nothing to two in the blink of an eye. So the New Haven gondola again, I'm still awaiting. I've only just literally 6 hours ago. It's just ticked over to 10 o'clock UK time. About 6 hours ago, I actually only placed the order originally for the gondola instruction kit and a few other bits and pieces. So it's going to be a while before that. But the New Haven, I sort of think, will be a nice sort of change. It's the railroad that actually got me into HO scale, so I think it's time we got some representation. Now I'm foraying into Lego scale. And the other one, which I've talked to some people about, some people will know about, possibly might be actually watching this live stream, and it's actually a special lug car, and I do have a picture of the sort of schematics somewhere, which I might flash up, but on certain aspects, I mean, Penlug has certainly got their own, and there is actually one for what was I going to say? There is actually one for Brick Central already, which is the boxcar, but I'm actually going to do a lug specific gondola for Sheffield Lug, or Slug as it was called. Unfortunately, between creating the decal and talking about it and this video, Sheffield Lug actually no longer exists. It actually got merged or sort of absolved into the Brickish Association, so Slug as it was no longer exists. But Slug will exist in model form. So here we go. So I'm actually going to have to change this scene so it will look a little odd. So here, so I'll just move back a bit and I won't have to change the camera at all then. So this is it. This is the Sheffield Lug Steelworks and Foundry gondola. This is an image obviously this was before the decal sets released, so this is actually a photo of the real life thing. Load will be different. But this is the sort of how I've arranged it so it would actually read Sheffield Lug Steelworks and Foundry. This is actually going to change a bit. I've sort of decided to do an I-beam load on this, so you can sort of see actually put the sort of font I used to actually do it. So it was Calibri 16 for the small and 36 for the large. So that's just for the image. The real thing will change, but I just sort of thought that looked sort of the lettering just about fitted in perfectly with the lines, and it was fairly centered, so it looks okay. And this one is actually going to be in black, so the gondola sort of distribution is neatly 2 reddish brown and 2 black, so it just sort of blends in quite well from that regard. And this folder incidentally is actually all the BMR Freight Cars and images and research stuff. So for the Susquehanna hopper, for example, there are actually some real life photos of them, and this is actually one of them. And this image is actually what has drawn me to actually doing different brake rigging for the hoppers. So the BMR hopper, I don't think this isn't actually the same hopper model. It's a similar sort of thing though, 34 sort of 34 ton, 37 foot, This was actually built in January 1952, I think it looks like, or 53. I'm not entirely too sure. But that has a different style of brake rigging. So the original BMR car has a vertical brake rigging. So I've just actually knocked off the brake stand, so I'll actually put this back and I'll actually show you what I mean. So put that down, and I'm actually going to take the Susquehanna hopper down. So here's the new New York Central hopper I've done. This is actually a completed model now, so this should be fine showing off. And this has got a sand load in it, modified from the original instructions. So the rough placement of the plates is the same, but I have changed the points of some of it, smoothed it out a bit, and done a few other bits and pieces. But this actually has the original style of vertical brake stand. So obviously there's a little bit of clearance here, but this was sort of designed just to hold. Brake stands sort of have two sort of functions, if you like, or the brakes do certainly, and the brake stands how they're enacted. On yards, or in yards I should say, in yards, or when a train needed to be held and you applied brakes, generally it was stationary, so it wouldn't be an issue. So you just climb up the ladder, turn the brake wheel and put the brakes on. But if you're moving and you're having to do that, on the original sort of style, you've got a little platform to rest on, but there's no handrails to actually grip yourself up here. So you'd have to sort of kind of maneuver yourself just about so you've got enough effort to turn the brake wheel with your right hand while holding on with your left hand and your feet. So Railroad sort of went, it's all right, but could do with change. So you kind of had a period of change. Now some railroads changed and went with a vertical, I wouldn't say grip, more like a lever. So you'd actually crank that like you would with a hand pump to pressurise something, where you've got sort of like a knife lever, and you're constantly doing that. The brake lever would sort of do the similar thing. So you'd crank that up and it would tighten the chain, and then the chain would actually apply or loosen the brakes as required. So obviously there's a few benefits with that. It's not at the top of the car. So on the real life thing, if this was the hopper, it was actually down here. So the platform was actually roughly in line, I think it was with the second step. And then what would happen is that you could actually just climb up here, go around the side, and then you just crank the brake when it was here. So I'm actually going to model this on a different car, but not this one. And it would actually be here. So you'd actually be able to do it pretty quickly, and it's certainly a lot safer than trying to climb up to the top and do it. But later hoppers moved to this sort of style of brake wheel, where it's still end mounted, but actually not above the body sides, actually mounted slightly lower. So this is actually a custom version of the brake detail, and this is actually using a chain, so it's a bit more realistic in some respects on the rod, because a lot of them were actually train driven rather than rod driven, because obviously a chain can actually just use to pull in, rotate it 90 degrees, or more than that depending on what you need. But this actually required quite a lot of change to the instruction, and the headlight brick, the chain and wheel actually connect to actually upside down, or is upside down I should say. So if I pull that close to the camera, you can sort of see it there. But this the hopper model, and I've said this before, it's actually had quite a few changes and quite a few parts emissions now. I've actually been able to change it, and it's actually only got 3 not original painted part or Lego parts, I should say. Originally it was going to be 5, following the original brake stand sort of style, but I've actually reworked that, so it's actually only 3. So you won't be able to see it, but at the back there is a Technic connector for the brake cylinder, so that would hold a certain amount of pressure, so that it'd effectively keep the brakes off. So the way brakes work, for those of you who aren't such into trains, effectively what would happen is that train brakes work off a vacuum system. So if there's no pressure in the brakes, they should be applied, or that is how they originally worked. Some railways and different countries use different methods. The vacuum brake effectively works on the basis that every vehicle in the train has a brake that is applied if there is no vacuum in the pipes. So effectively what that means is that if there is no engine or there is nothing taking brakes off, then there are brakes on the train and the train won't move. It's effectively a kill switch. So if there is no connection to anything which is taking the air out of the brake pipes, it will effectively mean that the brakes are applied regardless. So I think the railroads in America actually had valves for that to actually disable it, so on hump yards they actually seal the brakes off so that they're actually in the off position. So they'd actually be sealed up, and then they'd actually release the valves when they wanted to pressurise the brakes. Don't hold me to that, I'm not an expert, but I think that's roughly how it worked. And what had happened then is that as you connected the pipes up, your brakes would come off, and that's how that works. So I actually have forgotten what I was talking about, but that sort of thing. So honestly, handbrakes was kind of operated the same brakes, but actually operated them differently. So whereas the vacuum brakes operated off the loco, or in some instances you actually had cabooses and certain other things which would act that sort of way as well. Wagons sort of operated off chains and brake stands, whereas they'd actually apply the same brakes, but they'd actually use a mechanical method. So obviously the brake wheel, as on these, or a chain or a lever, would actually change the position of the brake mechanism to actually activate the brakes. So it's a bit of a difference from that respect. So that's it for that sort of thing. I think that is everything in terms of news, and everything in terms of updates. There is one other thing I want to say, because I don't think there's anything else I need to discuss. Tomorrow morning, so very early, I'm actually leaving the house at 7 o'clock. It's actually that early, or just after, maybe, depends on how tired I am. I'm actually going to be dropping some of these models off, not necessarily this one, not necessarily that one, but some of these are actually going to be dropped off along with, and I've actually got it here, the observation car from the brickliner. I still need to do some work because there's still no underside, but this is actually going to be moved there as well, and they're actually going to be taken to the NEC in Birmingham, and they're actually going to be on the Blocks magazine stand. So I still need to decide what I'm taking and sort of pack them away. But my current plan is to do the observation car, obviously, to represent passenger trains. And there's also going to be, I was going to take off probably the New York Central hopper because it's actually complete, and I'd probably be taking the flat car as well, and possibly the caboose. I'm not entirely too sure, and then obviously taking a few other bits and pieces such as the BMR sticker, and sort of neatly positioning that as a bit of advertisement and that sort of stuff. So, so if you're going to Brick Live, at the NEC between tomorrow and the 4th of November. And you're near the block stand, to take a look, because these models will be on there and you can actually see them there. So that's it from the Halloween, sort of the October update. I'm going to throw it open to the chat in case you got any questions, but yeah, that's it as far as I'm concerned in terms of updates. So I'll just put some of these back. I certainly will, Glenn. It's going to be certainly interesting to see how the sides are done. I did notice they were snotted. I did actually have a brief look in because I know it's probably done in a similar sort of fashion to the flat car. I won't say any more than that. But I did anticipate that it would be sort of like a 6 study wide sort of version with snot to do the sides. I'll finally time to have a drink. How many BMR cars do you have so far intend to build? That's a very good question. Not enough, or far too many, depending on your point of view. So you got. Well, let's actually stick up the calculator for this. I'm actually terrible at maths. Depending on what you look at. So we've got 3 box cars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 hoppers. 4 flat cars. I know that off by heart. 4 tank cars. 2 cabooses and 4 gondolas. So in total that's 25 cars, I want to say. I'll actually put that in the chat. But I do want to add the proviso that list may change, and I certainly do want to do, or certainly anticipate that I will be adding a 5th tank car to the roster. And there's a very simple reason for that. If you have a look at tank cars and what loads they carried, you sort of have tank cars are roughly split into sort of like 3 categories. If you want to just use broad brushstrokes, you have fuel oils and fuels in general. So that's stuff like petroleum or gasoline, diesels, heavy fuel oils, mechanical oils as well. I think you could probably come under that as well, like lubricants. You've then got all your chemicals and additives and that sort of stuff that are used in like farming, in chemical productions, cleaning, that sort of stuff from that perspective as well. And then you've also got your food services. So for example, one of them I've done, for example, is the corn syrup one, which I showed off earlier, the red one. But you'd also have, and this is kind of the sort of area I want to go in, you'd also have dairy. And dairy would actually be quite a big one as well, depending on where it was, because you had a sort of change in the way milk was taken. Originally milk was so carried in churns. Sometimes it was actually fresh from the farm. It was literally taken off cows, put into churns, then taken to a milk processing plant to be pasteurised, if that was at that time done. and then actually distributed from there. Later on, as pasteurisation became easier to do, and it became better to ship in bulk quantities, you actually had the change where milk was actually done by the tank car full, delivered to the railroad, tank car was filled up, and then that actually tank car, whether it was sort of ready to be distributed or needed to be cleaned, was then taken off and dealt with as needed. So you sort of have these different variants where earlier on it was more dealt with in boxcars, but by late 19th century I think it had all been converted over to tank cars for bulk transit at least. The smaller loads were probably still dealt with in churns, but a lot of it was actually dealt with in tank cars. And out of the 4 tank cars I've actually got 2 are just for Octan, one in the 20 delivery, one in the 40 delivery. So there is a sort of transition between there, so I want to try and add a 5th tank car, but just for food, and probably milk, if I'm going to be honest. Because the chemicals are all right up to a certain point, but I do want a bit of variance from that sort of thing. And another thing is as well is that list that says 25 in it, which probably will be 26, that includes built and unbuilt ones. So I'll actually have a look at that list because I'll actually see what hasn't been done. So I'm going to include built to include partially built as well. So that's going to exclude the... So I'm going to also add a stipulation there that it's partly built with actual stuff to show rather than just a few bits and pieces. So with the BMR boxcar, where I've just got mostly just parts for it in these drawers, so as an actual construction, I've got the ends and the doors, and even the doors aren't complete, so I'm not actually going to count something like that. I will count stuff like the hopper, where it's actually got a base and a reasonable start to it. I'm actually going to count that, so I'll just get the calculator out again. So you got, actually I don't need that, so take one off from there, take one off from there, so we -2 already, -3, so 7 I would have said out of that 25 haven't been reasonably started yet. So out of the 25, 7 haven't been done, so you're looking at 18. So 18 sort of construction. So there's obviously a bit of a variance between actual wants and actual done. But I should point out that of that 7, one of them is the tan BMR boxcar, so I have actually started that. The other one, another one is actually the third black but 4th in total flat car. You've also got the caboose, which I haven't even started yet, which again is a bit like the BMR one. I've got a few parts for it, but I haven't actually got any progress to actually physically show off. Then I've also got the gondolas as well, so there's 4 of those. So out of that 25, 7 of them, you could pretty much just say 5, 6 of them haven't actually had any progress, whereas the boxcar one has a bit of progress. So it's a bit of this and that. And I sort of look at completion as a bit of a weird goal, because a lot of the models I have aren't complete for 2 reasons, and they kind of are nestled into each other. The first one is wheels, because a lot of the wheels I've got, I've either converted myself from 9-volt wheels, so I've actually taken off 9-volt axles and replaced them with power function equivalents to use the wheels in more models, or on the flip side, I've used up the BMR one, well, the ones that come with BMR instructions, but actually used them for other models. So I think it was I can't remember which one it was. I think it might have been the flat car. I actually used the ones that were included in the flat car for one of the hoppers, I think, or one of the tank cars. I can't remember. I think it was actually that was it. I used one of them to do the tank car, and I used the tank cars to do something else. It was a bit of a swap and change, and I laughed myself at the time for it, because it was only like a month later I'd actually start using them. But it was just like, well, I want to get this one done. I'll use the ones from that one and then do other stuff. So the other bit is thoughts on the BMR t-shirt. I don't know quite what to think of the BMR t-shirt at the moment. It certainly looks nice, and personally I can't wait to see the minifig variant release as well. Might be a bit too small for my personal size, but I do have 2 sig figs of, and actually it's a good point, where are they? So yeah, I do actually have a sig fig, so there it is. I'll actually take the plastic cover protecting him off. So he's a bit out of date because he doesn't have a beard. He has stubble, but there you go. I'll just put my hand behind it so you can actually focus on him. Whoop. So he's actually got, the camera doesn't actually focus that well, but he's actually got a Squadron 42 t-shirt on. That's actually a custom print from minifigures.me. That's actually got for Christmas 2016 from the Brick Set Secret Santa, actually. I took part in it that year. I didn't take part in it last year because I was focused on other stuff. But I did take part in it in 2016, so that actually came from that. And then when I left my old employers, one of them actually gave me this one. So again, I'll just take the lid off. So I have a little brick that says Matt the RT guy, and then you've got, I think it's one of the Space Invaders-y music t-shirts Lego have done over the years, which is quite nice, and it includes the laptop as well. So I can actually, if I do get another, so when the BMR minifig scale t-shirts or size t-shirts are released, this one's actually going to get upgraded with one of those as well. So then that can get done. Just put it in there, and I'll actually as well blow that one out, and we'll leave the pumpkin. I'll blow that one out as well. And yes, I have actually. I should also point out that yes, I do actually have one on order. Where is the list? Because that's the big one. BMR, here we go. So the order itself, and I'll actually read this out. And I've already lost it. So there we go. So the total list was 2 lots of decals. They were the hopper ones, so the LAC, DLW and Lehigh Valley. You also had the gondola instructions, the 2 sets of decals for the instructions, for the gondola instructions. So one was the Pennsylvania Railroad and one was the Reading Railroad. The BMR boxcar decals as well, and the BMR t-shirts as well. So pretty much half of that order was just for the gondola. The other 3 decals were sort of stuff I'd get to eventually, and then I also got the t-shirt as well. So the t-shirts actually shipped separately, I should point that out. So the t-shirts are actually shipped from Mohawk Design instead of BMR themselves. Saves space, saves processing. Essentially, say we've got this t-shirt, and here's the send, and here's the recipient. Makes it easier for Mohawk to do. I think Mohawk send theirs on a Thursday. Don't quote me on that. I remember bits and pieces, and vaguely remember a few others, but that's it as far as I know. So yeah, can't wait. I don't know how long it'll take. That's the other thing. I anticipate. I'll actually have a look. Actually have a look at the news article as well. Because it might actually say there decals for the t-shirts, right. Doesn't actually say right, so if I go to, I think it was actually on the shop page, I saw these. Yeah, so shirts are printed and shipped directly from Mohawk Design and are printed as orders come in, so they're not actually printed and kept in stock, they're actually live printed ready for orders, and they're shipped on the Thursday. So this order was placed on Wednesday, so maybe it will be shipped tomorrow. It could be tomorrow, it could be next Thursday. I don't really mind. It's not like I'm short of t-shirts. But yeah, I can't. It's going to be an interesting, another addition to my Lego collection of wear. So I've got the so to point a few out of a few other things. In terms of Lego t-shirts, I've got 3 Brick Live NEC t-shirts from various years. So that's 15, 16 and 17 because I volunteered to those years. There's the Lego Awesome since 1958, I think it is, with the brick on it. That was actually purchased from Billund last year when I went to the Eiffel event at the Lego house, and I had that in the Legoland because we actually did go around Legoland one day. And the other one is my lug shirt for Brick Central. I should be getting a polo shirt this weekend from Kevin, who actually was the manager of Sheffield Lug before they merged. I think he's still at a position fairly high up with the British Association, so he does a few other bits and pieces, so hopefully I should be able to get the Sheffield Lug t-shirt. I'm not sure whether that order actually went through, so it does remain a bit of a question mark, but I'll see if I do get one. If I don't, it's no great loss, but it would have been nice to have one. But yeah, I think that's it. It is now just after 10:30, so this stream's actually been going on for 58 minutes. So it's probably been the longest one ever. One other thing I've just remembered, and I should have pointed this out earlier. When I do my models, I'm actually going to make a difference with the BMR ones. When they're complete, or roughly complete, with maybe the exception of bogey detailing, I'm actually going to upload photos of them onto Flickr. So some of them which have already got photos already, they'll just be uploaded straight away or within the next couple of days. Whereas some of the ones which are still on the workbench but not complete, once they're reasonably complete, they'll actually then get uploaded themselves. But if there are any changes, I'll actually make a note in the descriptive field that this has changed or that has changed, just to make it a bit easier, because then once it's complete, it can actually go on Flickr and sort of go, it's actually done, here it is. So if you, for example, want to look at how the real life version looks compared to, I don't know, the decal instructions or maybe the real life thing, you can sort of go, actually, oh, there's actually one here, it's actually in Lego, it actually looks quite nice, I'll actually go and order one of those. So obviously, if it's not dirt, and this is the thing, if the decals aren't on BMR store, message OK Brickworks and sort of say, I noticed Matt Gaming and Brick had one of these, you know, can you run a set of these off for me? And likely chances are he'll say yes. The Hooker Chemical ones, if I remember correctly, Andy's actually done the design work for BMR, but they were just not released, from what he said, so who knows. But that's it as far as I'm aware. So they were done, just never released. So that was a sort of easy win for him because he'd done the design work already, just not finished it, not actually produced any. So that'll actually get used at some point. I want to do the handrails for the Hooker Chemical one before actually doing anything else for like decal wise for it. Otherwise, I might wreck the decals, and I don't really want to do that. So this stream's been going on for over an hour now. I think there's been plenty of time to people to ask questions. Obviously, if you do have any more, do pop them in the comments. We'll eventually get around to looking at them and responding to them. So obviously it won't be first thing tomorrow. Tomorrow I've actually got my whole drop off at Brick Live. And then I'm off to Birmingham afterwards actually to have a look at something for Glenn from BMR in Neil Allen. So who knows, if you're local to Birmingham and you happen to be in Birmingham tomorrow and you think you might see me, you probably will. So that's it as far as I'm concerned. Obviously this is going to be left up, so this has probably been one of the longest streams I've actually done. And who knew it was all about BMR Freight Cars. So that's it from me for tonight. And it's now 20 to 11, so I'm actually going to end the stream and go to bed. So that's it from me, and see you later.